The air in the Persian palace hung heavy with incense and fear. Esther, dressed in royal robes, paused at the entrance to the inner court. No one could approach the king without being summoned under penalty of death. Yet her cousin Mordecai had sent word of a decree to destroy every Jew across the empire. She was their only hope. With a silent prayer on her lips, she stepped forward into the golden light. This is the story of the hidden queen who changed everything with one act of courage. The Persian Empire stretched from India to Ethiopia under King Ahasuerus. His power was absolute. Around 480 BC, he held a 6-month festival displaying the riches of his kingdom. Nobles and officials from every province attended. When that ended, he hosted a 7-day feast for the citizens of Susa, the capital. Golden goblets shone. Silk banners swayed in the breeze. The king sat on his throne carved with lions, eager to impress his subjects with unlimited wine and splendor. On the final day, the king commanded Queen Vashti to appear before the drunken guests wearing her crown to display her beauty. She refused. Her defiance echoed through the marble halls. The advisors warned that her example might spread to every woman in the empire. The king deposed her that very hour. A new decree went out. Every beautiful young woman in the provinces would be brought to the harem in Susa for preparation to potentially take her place. Among those taken was Esther, daughter of Abihail. Both her parents had died, leaving her an orphan in the care of her cousin Mordecai, a Benjamite Jew who sat at the king's gate. Esther was lovely in form and features. She found favor with the chief eunuch Hegai, who sped her preparations with special oils and foods. For 12 months, the women underwent beauty treatments before meeting the king. Esther asked for nothing except what Hegai advised. When Esther's turn came, she won the heart of everyone who saw her, including the king. He placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen in Vashti's place. A great banquet celebrated her coronation. Yet at Mordecai's command, she revealed nothing of her Jewish heritage. She continued to obey her cousin even from the palace. Meanwhile, Mordecai sat at the king's gate, gathering news from the empire that stretched across 127 provinces. One day, while at his post, Mordecai overheard 2 officers plotting to assassinate the king. He reported it to Esther, who told the king, giving credit to Mordecai. The plotters were executed, and the event was recorded in the royal chronicles. Soon after, the king promoted a man named Haman the Agagite above all other nobles. The king commanded everyone to bow before Haman, but Mordecai refused. His quiet defiance would ignite a fire across the empire. Haman burned with rage when he learned Mordecai was a Jew. Rather than punish one man, he resolved to destroy all Jews throughout the kingdom. He cast lots to choose the day of destruction, the month of Adar. Then he approached the king with a twisted report, claiming a certain people followed their own laws and refused the king's commands. He offered to pay 10,000 talents of silver into the treasury. The king gave him his signet ring. Scribes wrote the decree in every language of the empire. It commanded that on the 13th day of Adar, all Jews, young and old, would be destroyed. Copies were sent by swift couriers to every province. The city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and wailed loudly in the streets. The sounds of mourning spread through every Jewish community as the shadow of the edict lengthened across the land. Esther's servants told her of Mordecai's public grief. She sent him fresh clothes, but he refused them. Through her trusted eunuch Hathach, Mordecai sent a copy of the decree and urged her to plead with the king for her people. Esther replied that anyone approaching the inner court without being called faced death unless the king held out his golden scepter. She had not been summoned for 30 days. The risk seemed impossible. Mordecai's response cut through her fear. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape. If you remain silent, relief will arise from another place, but you and your family will perish. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? His words echoed in the quiet chambers. The weight of generations pressed upon her shoulders. The moment of decision had arrived. Esther sent word back to Mordecai. "Gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will do the same. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." For 3 days the city held its breath. No food touched her lips. Prayer filled the silent rooms as she prepared her heart for what might be her final act. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes. She stood tall, though her pulse raced. Walking through the palace corridors, she approached the inner court. The king sat on his throne facing the entrance. Every eye turned toward her. The guards tightened their grip on their spears. One misstep now and her story would end in silence. Yet she carried the hopes of her people with every measured step across the marble floor. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased. He held out the golden scepter in his hand. She approached and touched its tip. "What is it, my queen?" he asked. "What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be given you." Esther did not reveal her purpose immediately. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet she had prepared that very evening. The king agreed, and Haman swelled with pride at the exclusive invitation. That night at the wine banquet, the king again asked Esther what she wanted. Her request remained hidden. She invited both men to another banquet the following day. Haman left full of joy, yet when he saw Mordecai at the gate who still refused to bow, his joy turned to fury. At his wife's suggestion, he built a 75-foot gallows, intending to ask the king to hang Mordecai on it the next morning. The trap was set, but Providence moved first. That same night, the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal chronicles read aloud. The account of Mordecai exposing the assassination plot was recited. The king realized no honor had been given to him. At that moment, Haman entered the outer court, hoping to request Mordecai's execution. The king asked him what should be done for the man the king delights to honor. Haman, assuming it was himself, described lavish public recognition. The king commanded him to do all this for Mordecai the Jew. Haman obeyed, but his spirit was crushed. He rushed home in mourning, only to be called to Esther's second banquet. Wine flowed again. The king pressed Esther a 3rd time for her request. Finally, she spoke. "If I have found favor, grant me my life and the life of my people. We have been sold for destruction." The king demanded who would dare such a thing. Esther's voice remained steady as she declared, "The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman." The king rose in fury and walked into the palace garden. Haman begged Esther for his life, falling upon her couch. When the king returned, he saw this and ordered Haman's face covered. One of the eunuchs mentioned the gallows Haman had built for Mordecai. The king commanded that Haman be hanged on it instead. That very day, the shadow lifted. The man who plotted death met his own end upon the wood he had prepared. The king gave Haman's estate to Esther. Mordecai was brought before the king wearing royal garments and given the signet ring. A new decree was written allowing the Jews to assemble and defend themselves on the appointed day. The couriers raced out with the good news. Mourning turned to light and joy. In every province, the Jews celebrated with feasting. Many people from other nations became Jews because the fear of them had fallen upon the peoples. Esther and Mordecai established the days of Purim to be remembered throughout every generation. The name comes from the lot Haman cast to choose the day of destruction. Instead, those days became celebration. Esther's quiet obedience and courage ensured her people would survive. Her story reminds us that even when hidden in plain sight, one person's willingness to stand can alter the destiny of nations and echo through centuries of faith. Like other women of Scripture who answered their moment, Deborah leading armies or Jael striking a blow for freedom, Esther showed that courage often wears the face of measured wisdom rather than brute force. She used the position given her not for personal gain, but for the deliverance of many. Her legacy lives in every act of faithful risk, taken when the cost seems too high, yet the call too clear to ignore. The book written about her does not once mention the name of God, yet his hand moves on every page, protecting, guiding, and delivering. Esther's fast, her preparation, her chosen words, all speak of a deep reliance beyond what eyes could see. In the grand sweep of Scripture, her story stands as quiet testimony that deliverance often comes through those willing to lay their own safety aside for something greater. Centuries later, her courage would find echoes in other faithful women, including one who stood at an empty tomb with news that would change the world forever. Each, in her own way, stepped forward when it mattered most. Their stories, woven together, remind us that history bends toward deliverance through unlikely hands, guided by unseen purpose. The courage of Esther continues to inspire because it was not loud or boastful, but rooted in quiet conviction and trust. If her story moved you, and you long for more biblical accounts told with reverence and cinematic care, consider joining us here at Sacred Chronicles HQ. Subscribe today and turn on notifications so you never miss the next hidden chapter of faith that reveals how ordinary lives intersect with extraordinary purpose. Your support helps us bring these sacred stories to life for many more. Share this video with someone who needs reminding that their hidden season may be preparation for a greater moment. Leave a comment telling us which woman of Scripture you would like to see next. Deborah J.L. or Mary Magdalene each carries her own powerful chronicle. By engaging with these stories, we keep their lessons alive across generations. Thank you for watching and for being part of the Sacred Chronicles community.